In this video, we're going to be looking at a 5-rib braid cable pattern. You'll need a cable needle, and we're going to start out by purling the 2 stitches that outline this cable pattern on either side. The pattern tells us to knit these first 2 stitches before getting into these 2 left-leaning cables. So I'm knitting these 2, and I'm going to purl the next stitch, and then I'll slide these next 3 stitches onto my cable needle. So that's 2 knit stitches and a purl, and I'm going to hold that cable needle in front to create this left-leaning cable. I'll knit the next 2 stitches, and then I will slide the purl stitch that we placed on this cable needle back to my left hand needle so that I can purl that stitch. You're always going to be placing a purl stitch on top of a purl stitch and a knit stitch on top of a knit stitch. So I'll knit these 2 stitches on the cable needle next, and then I will purl the next purl stitch on my left hand needle. To make the next left-leaning cable, I will slide these next 3 stitches over to my cable needle and hold this one in front. I'll knit the next 2 stitches, slide the purl stitch from the left of my cable needle back to my left hand needle and purl it. And then I will knit the next 2 stitches on my needle. Now I just purl the 2 stitches that outline the cable pattern, and that's the first row of cabling. So you can see we've made these 2 left-leaning cables in the front of our work. And now I will speed through the next 3 rows to get back to our next set of cables. And when you're doing these 3 rows in between the cables, you will just place a purl stitch on top of every purl stitch from the row below, and every knit stitch you'll knit. Okay, now we've done our 3 rounds in pattern without any cables, and we're going to do our next set of cabling. So we're going to start with those 2 purl stitches that outline the cables, and then we'll create our 2 right-leaning cables on this round, and this time we're going to place the first 3 stitches on the cable needle, and we're going to hold that to the back. And if you need a way to remember a right-leaning stitch or a right-leaning cable, just think of be right back. So you're going to hold the cable needle to the back for a right-leaning cable. So I've knit those first 2 stitches. Now I'm going to slide my purl stitch back onto my left hand needle, and I will purl that stitch before I go back to my cable needle and knit those 2 knit stitches that are left on there. Now I'll purl the next purl stitch on my left hand needle before placing 3 more stitches on my cable needle. So these 2 knit stitches and the purl stitch that follows them go on the cable needle. We'll hold that to the back and knit the next 2 stitches. Before sliding that purl stitch back onto the needle and purling it. And then finally knitting the 2 stitches left on our cable needle. We'll purl the next purl stitch, and then we have those 2 knit stitches left from our pattern and our 2 purls for the outline. And there you go, we've knit our 2 right leaning cables. So you'll just continue to do this pattern all the way through until your cable is complete.